For the second part of this first exercise, we will create a value scale. A value scale is a diagram for mapping graduating values of gray from black to white. This is an important tool to show yourself the range of values that you are able to create with your paint. You will use this value scale as a reference in your upcoming exercise and for project 1. We are going to make a 10-point value scale that graduates from 100%, which is absolute black, to 10% gray, which is a very light gray. To start, use the bottom half of the same page with your chromatic black mixtures and label it 10-point value scale. Then, use a pencil and a ruler, or another straight edge, to draw a roughly 2-inch tall row across the length of the page. Draw a line in the absolute center to cut this row into 2 halves, and then draw 4 lines in each of these halves to create a total of 10 squares. Take a moment to count them. If you are off, just erase and try again. Now, label below the leftmost square 100% and go down the row 90%, 80%, etc. until you reach 10% on the opposite side. You now have a 10-point value scale ready to fill. Now go back to your neutral chromatic black mixture on your palette. You will need a larger amount than the previous part of the exercise, so squirt out some more burnt umber and ultramarine blue and mix a larger portion. Because we will be using quite a bit of this color for the coming weeks, now would be a good time to mix a significantly larger portion that can be stored in a baby food jar or another small lidded container. You can go right ahead and fill in the 100% square with the pure chromatic black. This is the darkest the mixture will get. Next, in a separate space, squirt out some titanium white. This is what we will use to tint the chromatic black into the different grays on the scale. Let's start with just a touch of white to create 90% gray. This is the gray that is the closest to pure black on your scale. You can take some on your palette knife and compare it right against the 100% black on your value scale. Keep playing with proportions until it feels right. Before you go back to the original chromatic black mixture, take care to thoroughly wipe the blade of your palette knife. If even a little bit of mixture that's been tinted with the white gets added, it will tint the entire batch of your chromatic black. There are different strategies for creating an incremental value scale. One strategy is mixing your tints on the palette first before applying them to the canvas. This helps you visualize how they relate to each other before committing to them. Consider doing this for the darker half of the scale first, and then for the lighter half to avoid having your paints dry up on the palette. Once you've painted your tints across the scale, take a moment to look them over as a whole. They should appear to graduate in even 10% increments from left to right. Are there any spots where the tints look too similar to their neighboring tints? How about where they look too far apart? If so, don't worry. Once the paint is dry to touch, you can easily mix again and paint right over the existing tint. One tip is that acrylic paint often dries slightly darker than it appears when it's wet. The more you work with the medium, the better you'll be able to anticipate what the dry paint will look like. Congrats! You've reached the end of exercise 1.